Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Deep Six Podcast, coming to you from Orlando, Florida, and somewhere just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Of course, as always, I'm your guest. I'm not your guest, I'm your host, Steven Spevak.
You are the guest on my show.
As always, joined by the one, the only Mr. Matt Barnes. Matt, how are you?
Hello, Steven. How are you?
I don't know. I guess I'm a little jumbled because apparently I'm the guest on my own podcast. So,
if you think about it from a certain perspective, makes sense.
But yes, here we are. What is this? This is episode 35. Wow.
Jesus. Never thought I'd make it this long.
I never thought we'd make it this long either. So
just think about all the bodies we lost along the way. If you think I'm bad, you haven't heard Dan yet.
Oh, well.
Whatever. He's not listening.
So, yeah, here we are. It's another fine day for another fine episode of the Deep Six Podcast. I think we're going to toss it around quite a bit this week, so hopefully you at home listening can stay with us.
Well, as long as you nail those transitions, shouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah, well, we all know I'm not the greatest with transitions.
God, do we ever.
But I'm going to start off on I don't want to say a somber note this week, but do want to start off by discussing the current situation surrounding Ric Flair. And I'm sure most of you listening have already heard about this or have been following it, but there was an article posted by the Post and Courier out of South Carolina written by Mike, I'm going to say Moynihan, or Moonaham.
Monahan?
Moonyham. So, Mooneyham?
Sounds fake as shit.
It's a legitimate post. The Gordon Soley Facebook page posted it, so...
I just meant his name. I'm sure that the article's real.
But yeah, I just wanted to read through a few parts of this here because I know a lot of the information that's been circulating has either been uncredited or debunked, or I don't know what the exact word to say. There's been a lot of misinformation circulating, and I know this article goes to quote Flair's current fiance, Miss Wendy Barlow.
Fifi the maid.
Yeah, she was confirmed that she rushed Flair to the hospital on Friday with severe abdominal pain, which he was then admitted in intensive care, which then revealed that he was tested and found that most of his organs were failing. This then goes on to say that there was life-saving surgery performed on Flair Monday, and operation was to repair an intestinal blockage and was successful. But there were other serious problems that surfaced, including Flair being put on kidney dialysis. But yeah, it seems after that he's still recovering and is, last I've seen, in critical condition. I don't know that this article really says much about it. We'll link the article in the show notes. You can go and read it for yourself because it kind of does a retrospective on Flair's career and things of that nature. But just wanted to quickly touch on that to let everyone know that we here at the Deep Six Podcast are pulling for Rick and hope that he makes a speedy recovery because I don't know about you, Matt, but Ric Flair has been quite an influence on my life, and I've always been a big fan of his. So,
Steven, listen to me for 1 second. I will never retire. Woo! Because they put me down one more time and try to get the 3, but I'm going to kick out. And then it's time for the figure 4. Woo!
Are you done?
What's wrong? We can't do character work on this show?
If that's what you want to call that. Anyway, I guess we'll transition into some, funner's not a word, but more fun wrestling news. We're going to briefly talk about SummerSlam, which at the time this episode goes up will be tonight. So hopefully you're not listening after SummerSlam. But I don't have a whole lot to say. I'm not super excited for this show. What about you, Matt?
I don't know. I'll watch it because it's on.
I don't know. I don't have a lot of hopes for Corbin and Cena.
Well, of course you wouldn't. They could go out there and put on a 4.5 star match, and you're just going to say it was shit anyway because Corbin was in it.
Let him go out and put on a good match. Prove me wrong,
Can we fully admit that, though, that he's had some good work since he came up, and you'll still just shit on him anyway?
I think he's improved. I'll say that much. I don't think he's quite main event level yet, but
That's good because he's not in main events. So
well, he should have been. But that cash in on SmackDown was kind of a clusterfuck. Is that the word I want to use?
Well, I mean, it is. It's a written show. I mean, written athletic show. So it's not like he actually cashed in and lost. That's just what the storyline called for. And if anything, I think it makes me think more that he's going to be champion very soon than less.
Clarify that.
Because they obviously think very highly of him and high enough to put some more heat on him with, he cashed in and Cena cheated to cost him, his championship match. So I just kind of feel like also people were expecting it to happen at SummerSlam. And now that's off the table. I think they were just trying to take that out of there. So I definitely think it's coming. I don't think it's, not a possibility anymore. He's going to be champion. I still think it'll happen by the end of the year.
I'm the complete opposite in my thought process on Corbin's cash in. I think it makes him look like a joke. I think
not really because he got cheated. So I think you're just projecting what you want to think about him anyway into the storyline because it doesn't make him look like a joke when he got cheated to lose. It kind of just makes Cena look like a heel as usual. Like the only face that consistently cheats his opposition is John Cena.
He got caught in a roll-up.
Right, off a distraction.
And he doesn't have the wherewithal to kick out? Like, come on. I don't care who you get.
That's not what the storyline called for, Steve. You are going to be prone to disliking everything they do with him, no matter what. And that's kind of like me with, like, Enzo Amore. I'm never going to like anything he does, ever.
I mean,
so I'm not.
You're
not
painting
like
me.
It's not like I'm not guilty of the same things, though.
To be an Enzo fan.
That literally has nothing to do with you. I'm saying that it's like me with Enzo Amore. That's just my own example of the same thing. That he could go out there and he could put on a 5-star classic, and I'll still think he's shit. I don't think that says anything about your fandom of him at all.
I don't know. We got legit heat, so.
You and who?
Me and Corbin.
That's your fault because you tried to taunt somebody who's a professional and you got called out for it.
It wasn't just being called out. I told you about the time he flipped me off at an NXT taping, right?
No, but
like nonchalantly, like was knocked out of the ring. Was knocked out of the ring, put his hand under the guardrail and flipped me the bird.
Well,
and of course
are you saying that you weren't asking for it?
I was, but still. And then he blocked our podcast on Twitter. Just like
because you were shitting on him from our podcast page, which you shouldn't have done because I'm a fan. So you're making me look bad by association.
You look bad, period. So anyway,
apparently.
Also on the card, we've got Shane McMahon is apparently officiating the Styles Owens championship match. Which, with Shane being involved, I feel like there's just going to be something that makes that match not as good as it should have been.
Well, I mean, he's not that involved. I mean, it's just, he's the referee. It doesn't feel necessary. They could have just pivoted right to, like, doing Owens versus Shane, which I don't really particularly want to see, but I think that makes more sense than having him be the guest referee in the match. It doesn't really seem very logical to me. Like, what experience does he have that he's, alpha referee where he can step in there and he's finally going to settle this shit, brother?
He's the commissioner? I don't know. I he really has no place being there. He's not an official.
He was a referee, what, almost 20 years ago now? He was a referee? Like, he's not qualified. Just in terms of the storyline.
Well,
it
yeah.
doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't
seem like they were pivoting towards, Shane and Owens, like I said. But then they decided, let's do this Owens-AJ match again. It's like the new Dolph Ziggler and Kofi Kingston feud where they're just going to keep feuding forever and nobody's going to give a shit by the end. Especially when their matches have been underwhelming, too, for AJ and Owens standards. Their matches, they just, I don't know, for whatever reason, they just don't gel very well together.
What was that match where they had the screwy finish? What pay-per-view was that?
Like all their finishes have been screwy finishes.
No, but the one where everyone was saying the one where AJ took the belt, where everyone was saying AJ wasn't supposed to win.
That was at MSG when he won the title the first time.
I don't know, whatever the
it wasn't
match
even televised.
Whatever the match was where the finish was off. Everyone was saying the finish wasn't supposed to be the finish.
That was at the pay-per-view in Philadelphia.
So Battleground, which would have been the last SmackDown pay-per-view, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, that match was awful.
Right, it was. But I mean, if you look back at it, like all the finishes of all their matches, because their first match in what was that, April or May, when they did the whole, AJ falls through the spot in the table and gets caught outside. Like, they haven't had a good finish to any of their matches. All their matches have been somewhat underwhelming. I mean, at least that match was good up until they went with the bullshit finish. But I don't know. For whatever reason, it's just, two good workers sometimes just don't have chemistry. It happens.
I don't know that they don't have chemistry. I just think that they're trying to do things that just aren't working.
I don't know. I mean, the only good finish that I can remember them having, or at least good match, was Raw in Philadelphia after AJ's debut. They had a match. I think it was like March of 16, right? And they had an okay match there. It was like a 30-minute TV match. But that's the only good match I can remember those two having since they've both been on the main roster.
I can't think of anything, so I mean that's you got more than I do with that. But I don't know. I this match doesn't excite me, but I'm hoping because it's SummerSlam, maybe they pull something out of their ass. But
I mean, you haven't even gotten to the main events yet.
No, I haven't.
You're just talking about undercard matches right now. Yeah. You're underwhelmed by them.
I don't know. This show just feels plagued with issues to me.
Well, I mean, this is like a one-match show. Like, you're going to see the main event, and that's really it. I mean, I don't think anybody really cares about Jinder and Nakamura. I don't think anybody really cares about Orton and Rusev. A lot of these matches are matches that we should want to see, but because their character work has been so bad in terms of writing, that nobody wants to see these matches. Because on paper, like Rusev versus Orton should be a really good match. But I don't think they've given anybody a reason to care about anything. Orton gets screwed out of his title by Great Khali and the Singh brothers and everybody else. And he never really tries to get a rematch again because he got screwed and doesn't really care about trying to get it back. And Rusev never wins anything. So why do we care about Rusev?
Exactly.
As entertaining as they both can be, the writing is so bad that nobody cares about that match. And you have, Big Show and Big Cass with Enzo in a shark cage. Just based on who's involved, I don't care about that match. I think the only match on this show that I really care about, because the writing has been really good for it, is the Raw Tag Team title match. The writing has been really good for that. The segments have been really entertaining. You have, that Shield reunion bullshit, which I'm not, a big fan of, but I think they played it off really well, where, typical WWE storylines would be, Ambrose and Rollins are friends again after one segment together. But they really made you work for this one, and, you have to invest, and you get it at the end of the month. You finally get them, teaming up, and they're going right into a title match. And we know how good Sheamus and Cesaro are.
Yeah. I don't know, though. I think the Universal Championship match is going to be good.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's the one match that this whole show is built around.
I mean, I've really liked Brock and Joe working together. I've really liked Reigns and Strowman working together, and to see all four of them thrown into the same match for the title is going to be fun, to say the least.
I think it's good that you like those individual pairings, because I don't think you're going to see Brock and Strowman tie up too much in this match.
I don't think it's going to be completely avoided, but I think it's going to
I think thinking about it, they'll give you a taste test, I think, where they're like, okay, well, this is what could happen, but they're not going to fully engage with it because they know that's, look, if you look across all of WWE right now, what's the one match you want to see? You want to see Brock and Strowman.
I mean, you're not wrong.
So why give it away in a four-way when you can, do that at WrestleMania?
I mean, you're not wrong. But yeah, I think that match is going to lead towards the two single programs happening, and you'll get the one-off spots with either a double team or whatever. But I think it's mostly going to be Brock versus Joe and Braun versus Roman.
Sure.
I don't know if I have to make a prediction on who walks out of SummerSlam with the title.
I'm curious about who you pick here.
I don't know. I feel like Joe's been really hot, and this might be the moment to put Joe over. But for some reason, I see Lesnar walking out of there with the title.
I don't really know where you go with Joe or Strowman at this point if either one of them loses the match. So I don't think they can lose the match. I don't think Reigns is winning because if you're going to have Reigns go over, it's not going to be in a four-way because that'll feel, Vince has this obsession thing, like with, his number one guy always winning the title in a one-on-one match. So I don't think they're going to do that. If Roman's going to win the title, he's going to win in a one-on-one match. So it kind of leads you to one of the other three. I don't think Strowman really needs it. He's probably one of the most, if not the most overperformer on the roster right now. So it kind of just gives you Joe and Brock. And I think Joe can get the most out of it at this point, especially since Brock won't be there next month anyway. So I kind of feel like you do, that it might be the right time to give it to Joe.
Yeah, I could also see something happening where maybe Roman and Braun wind up like brawling backstage or something, and it does dwindle down to a singles match.
I mean, I certainly hope not because, Roman and Braun are about as overplayed as you can be, too.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with that, but just based off of how that feud has been, I could see that being a possibility. I don't know. I don't see this one ending super cleanly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Joe is probably the smartest decision, but just based on how WWE books things, I feel like Lesnar's going to walk out of there with the title.
It'll be interesting to see. I think more importantly than that, though, as of recording tonight, we have NXT Takeover.
We do.
Which I think is a much better show on paper. I mean, it obviously has the advantage of only being a couple matches, but all the matches feel really big, which is, hasn't been the case for NXT in quite a while, where all the matches feel like they're going to be good and big.
I mean, this is basically the WrestleMania of NXT with the Brooklyn show.
Shouldn't the WrestleMania of NXT be the night before WrestleMania?
I don't know. Honestly.
Because if you look back at those cards, like in Dallas, we got Sammy and Nakamura and Joe and Balor. Those have been big shows, too. I think this year kind of made us feel like, okay, it's not that important. Because the show before WrestleMania this year wasn't very good. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, it was kind of lackluster. I don't know. Honestly, this show has a lot of potential.
Should we just run down the card real quick?
Yeah, I might as well.
So we have Andrade Almas and Johnny Gargano.
Which Johnny Gargano should win because Johnny Gargano is so over right now.
So I'm not even sure because I think if they're going to go with McIntyre as the champion after this show, then Andrade should be the next guy up to be like the main event guy. Should be.
I don't know. I don't see Andrade really getting in the NXT title picture.
He is completely wasted in how they're using him right now.
Yeah.
I feel like he should have been called up already if they're not going to do anything big with him in NXT. So he's got the look. He's got some heat behind him. He showed that he can do it. Why not just move him up?
I mean, there was that rumor for a while that with the shakeup in the two rosters, the main rosters, that Andrade was going to get a call up, which obviously didn't happen. But it's been speculated for a while that he's going to get called up. So, I mean, this could, depending on the outcome of this match, I guess potentially seal that if we're going to see him show up on the main roster soon enough.
Yeah. And I don't think Gargano's time is done in NXT.
No.
Especially with waiting for Ciampa to come back so they can actually realize that feud.
Yeah.
So I guess, I don't know. I'm going to say Andrade should win this, but you're saying Gargano, so we have some sort of written record to that. What's next? They have Aleister Black
and Hideo Itami.
Which should be very hard hitting. I could see this being, dark horse for best match on the show.
Okay.
Care to comment why you don't agree?
No, I've been very underwhelmed with Itami and NXT.
But I don't think anybody's underwhelmed by Tommy and Aleister Black.
No.
He's been very good.
I will say, though, that since Itami has become a heel, I've been much more interested in him.
I think it fits the way they've played his character in NXT more, where he just keeps losing and he keeps getting hurt. You can give him some edge by making him a heel, and it's worked.
Yeah, I definitely like Itami more as a heel. And I don't know, I feel like this is going to be definitely a match full of hard hits.
Strong style, would you say?
I don't know that I'll go that far with it. but we do know that both of these guys are known as strikers.
Sure. I'm going to obviously say that I think Aleister Black's going to take this one.
I don't see why he wouldn't.
I think they have bigger plans for him. He seems like the next guy that they're trying to build as being big. I don't know if that means that he'll be the NXT champion or if he's going to, get a rocket strapped to his ass right to the main roster at some point.
I also feel, though, with how high they are on Aleister, that giving Itami a win could really boost Itami.
It could because, they've made Aleister Black out to be like a giant big deal since he got there. And if you really look back at the past couple months, they debuted Bobby Fish against him. They debuted Kyle O'Reilly against him. And he's winning all these matches that are good matches.
Yeah.
They've definitely made it out to be, this guy he's got personality for one. He's got a different character. And he can kick ass. That's kind of how they're building him, and I think it's worked really well. So giving Itami the win, in like a fluke fashion and stretching it out to another show could work. I would agree with that.
I think it would definitely put Itami in a better position, honestly, to come out as the victor in this match.
Sure. NXT Tag Team Championship. You have Sanity. I think it's Alexander Wolf and Killian Dane?
Probably.
And the Authors of Pain. If you watch back to the last couple NXT shows, the crowd has been very pro-Sanity in this one, and I don't think they've really pushed you to make them the faces. I just think that people don't see the Authors of Pain.
Well, having been in the audience for the last set of NXT shows, I also get the feeling that the Authors of Pain might be on their way out to the main roster.
I would agree with that. I think that their act is going to play better on the main roster than it did in NXT. Some acts, they come up from NXT and they get like no reaction.
Yeah.
But then there's other acts that you could call up, like Authors of Pain, that are going to go up and they're going to be a huge deal on the main roster because of the way that the audiences differ.
Yep. I feel like they've definitely plateaued or peaked in NXT
it's hard when
too.
You don't have any strong tag teams really to put them against. I think that's been the big issue.
But yeah, I think this might finally be the tipping point because we all know that this is usually the show that is a send-off show for NXT
for some
talent.
people, for sure.
And I think Authors of Pain might be one of those send-offs because I can definitely see Sanity walking out with the titles.
Well, I think that Sanity, more than anybody on the NXT show right now, is getting a lot of heat behind them. And they need something. Like, they need a win as like a signature.
Yep.
And giving them a title, even if it's the tag team titles, will make them feel more important moving forward.
Yeah, I can definitely see Sanity walking out with the titles. That makes probably too much sense, honestly. Because this will be This will be about a year since they debuted?
Oh, God. Yeah, it's been a while.
Because I think the first vignette for Sanity was at last year's TakeOver Brooklyn.
Something like that, yeah, when they put up the ad on the screen, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been about a year, and they haven't had any titles yet, have they?
No, they haven't had any. I mean, they've had Nikki Cross get close, but they didn't pull the trigger on that. And Eric Young was missing for a while, too.
Yeah. I think it's definitely time for the just due for Sanity. So
I kind of agree with you there.
So, yeah.
I think my only hesitation would be in, what they're going to do with the other two matches. Because do you see them changing all three titles on the same night? Because I feel like all three titles are prone for a change on this show.
I wouldn't put it past them to do that, no.
Because obviously in the women's title match, we have Asuka and Ember Moon. And Asuka just this week went over 500 days as the NXT Women's Champion.
Yeah, I'm almost positive Ember Moon is going to be the new Women's Champion of NXT.
Yeah, I don't see any value in it being somebody else that takes it off Asuka at this point.
No, and I know that they've got, or at least they did have, really big plans for Ember before her injury.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like Asuka has nothing left to do. She literally has nothing left.
She doesn't. She's beaten everybody, for one. And the competition level is about to change over. Like, we know that because the Mae Young Classic starts, next week?
Yeah.
The talent level is about to change there. They're about to bring in some new faces because, obviously we know that they've signed a couple of those people already because I believe Dakota Kai signed. She's still there. I think she changed her tag name over to WWE on Instagram.
Yeah, she did.
They had her work the Progress show in New York. Like, WWE is really pushing her as somebody that they're bringing in.
She's been working quite a few of the Florida house shows, too, for NXT.
Right.
So.
And so has Shayna Baszler. She's been working some of their house shows, too. So I think they're going to bring in some new talent here. And I think, if they're going to start the new wave with new talent coming in, why not start it with a new champion too that you can kind of do different dynamics with? Because we've seen Asuka go back and forth here during this run as champion, where she's been, kind of a heel, then kind of a face, then kind of a heel. So you start this one off with a pure face. Ember Moon is a face. So I just think it would be a different dynamic for a while if they pull that change. I think this is the one I feel is almost guaranteed. I feel like Ember's definitely going to walk out tonight as the champion.
Yeah, I feel like this is definitely a guaranteed win for Ember. Like I said, Asuka and has nothing left. I mean, she's been the champion for the better part of the last 2 years, and she's just dominated. Like, she has just ripped through everyone. And honestly, if they don't pull the trigger on calling her up now, I think they're going to lose it.
Yeah, it'll be too late if they don't do it now, I think.
I mean, the only time they can do it if they don't do it now is in, 2 months when they do the next takeover? I mean...
I think they'll do it right away, and you might see her be one of those people that works both shows for a while.
That could be.
But, I really thought when they were originally going to call her up that they were going to make, they were going to have Charlotte be the women's champion on SmackDown. They'd call Asuka up, and you'd actually get to see, like, this big-time match that people want to see. But the more I think of it now, I kind of like it that Naomi's the champion, because they're kind of building her up to be, very strong, and, she's this character that the fans love. And then Asuka's going to come up, and she's going to kick the shit out of her and take it.
I hope so.
It kind of feels like that's where they're going with it now, doesn't it?
I mean, yeah. It really does. It feels like they're really trying to build up Naomi. I mean, obviously they gave her a custom championship, so I mean that means somebody in the back is high on her.
But she's already been a champion for almost 6 months now. And can you think of anything remarkable that she's done in 6 months?
No, I honestly can't.
So it just feels like that might be playing up to this whole point where they're going to call Asuka up, and then it'll be this strong champion on SmackDown, and then the newcomers up here from NXT, and she just runs her over.
I mean, we can hope, can't we?
Well, it's not even a hope. I just think it's a really good storyline.
I don't disagree with you. I have no faith in the booking of the main roster anymore.
Neither do I, but I just think that one seems very obviously played. No, I could be wrong, but it just feels that way. But it seems like we both agree that Ember Moon's going to walk out as the champion either way.
Yeah, and then we've got the NXT Championship match between Bobby Roode and Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, and we don't know what Roderick Strong might get involved too, because they've been playing up this triple threat angle with them where they're all kind of after each other.
Well, I mean, to completely leave him off the card is kind of weird.
Well, we'll get to that in a second after this title prediction thing. So let's talk about the title match first.
I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking, do they pull the gun and end the legacy of Bobby Roode in NXT, or do we see Drew McIntyre get potentially screwed and keep this going?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm in the same place you are, that I'm not 100% sure if it's the right time. But I also know that the time for keeping Bobby Roode down there is probably over.
Yeah.
Because he can come up on the main roster and be a viable heel threat on either show. He already has an audience that he's built with the WWE now, and he's really refined his character, which is stuff that he never really got a chance to do in TNA. He had, the Beer Money characters, but that was about it. So he's really come a long way since he got there, I think. And he's a merch seller. He moves new T-shirts all the time. This guy is a guy that should come up on the main roster, and he could make big waves right away. He's also, almost 40. So it just feels like they're wasting time just keeping him down there now. I also think that, when you read all these articles that are coming out about, this show and about NXT, it's all about, Drew McIntyre left the company and came back and really rebuilt himself, and he was one of the best workers on the independent scene. And, he's really made something of himself, even though he was kind of, going nowhere on the main roster before he got released. It just feels like they're trying to play up this angle where McIntyre is, like the marquee signing that they've been looking for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of leads me to believe that they at least want us to believe that McIntyre is winning tonight. But knowing what we know about WWE, usually those kind of bookings go the opposite direction.
Especially down in NXT. It seems sometimes that, or most times, that the NXT takeovers don't always play out as you might expect.
Right, and I think part of that is that they try to condition that audience to think of, that show as more of an independent show, or as more of like an old school 80s style wrestling where people hold titles forever and they only lose them on big shows, and they don't even work unless it's a big show. Can you remember the last TV match Rude has had?
He hasn't.
Right. He only works on pay-per-view. So they've made it very 80s, I think, and very indie booking, which I kind of like, actually, a little bit, where, you have to really wait for things to happen.
Yeah, it definitely speaks to the old like NWA era where you would, have your weekly or monthly television tapings, and you'd be lucky if you saw the champion fight. You'd be lucky if you got that kind of a thing, and then, of course, the champion would only fight in big matches on big money pay-per-views, and that's definitely the feeling I get from this, and definitely from Bobby Roode.
Well, sure, he definitely personifies that, where he's a big money player. He only shows up to, the big matches, and you really have to earn your spot against him.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But I don't know that I feel like his time is up. I feel like he's got 1 or 2 matches left in him as the champion.
Probably. I mean, we might even be looking at a situation where this is, a guy who gets called up for Royal Rumble this year.
Possibly.
And Royal Rumble's going to be in Philadelphia. So that's a place where that he's going to get a great reaction regardless.
Yeah.
So you kind of make it feel like a bigger moment if you wait till a show like that. I don't know. I'm really divided on this one, Steve. I don't really have any idea who's going to win this one.
Well, let's... I don't want to spend too much more time talking about this, but let's break down where Roode could go as the champion after this if he walks out with the title.
Well, you have to find a new face contender. Or
Aleister Black.
Or you could go triple threat and do McIntyre and, Roderick Strong together.
That too.
Because I would assume the next takeover will probably be before Survivor Series, would be my guess.
Yeah, I could only assume because they do them pretty much every 2 months, which means the next one should be October, though?
Yeah, so they could stretch out another couple weeks and do Survivor Series.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Aleister Black would come to mind, but I kind of feel like they're going somewhere different with him, and we'll talk about that in a second. I don't know. I think the only thing they could really do is that triple threat at that point. Unless they're going to give Johnny Gargano a shot.
I was about to say Gargano might be one of those guys they push up into that main tier of talent.
Well, think about it this way. When Ciampa comes back early next year, wouldn't it be great to have Johnny Gargano as the champion when he comes back?
Yeah, that'd be pretty insane. But I could also see McIntyre walking out tonight and then giving Roddy the match that he wants for the title and doing that kind of a thing. It's just really one of those things where I can't really see a definite path that they're going to take.
Neither do I. I think, your whole dynamic of your show changes if McIntyre walks out as champion. You've had this heel champion for so long that's not a fighting champion. He makes you earn your spot. And McIntyre will be the fighting champion guy, where, he'd be out there on TV defending titles.
Yeah, I don't really have much more else to say about it, but I think I'm okay with either one of them winning, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think that you're onto something there.
So we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously, by the time you're listening to this, it's all over. So we'll come back next week and attack it a little bit more and see what we got right, see what we got wrong with our predictions. And
for the big moment of the show, though, what do you think happens with Adam Cole?
Honestly, I don't think it's any different than anybody else. I think they're going to show him sitting in the crowd, and then he really won't do anything until the taping following the takeover.
Sure, I could see it going that direction, too, because I think his non-compete with ROH is already over. I think that's why he was working independence, just to work that out, so he could go to NXT and be right on TV right away.
I mean, you could also swerve us all. We're expecting that, and then he walks out and does something, or something along those lines. I mean, I'd really like to see a debut where a guy gets involved rather than a guy just sitting front row for like the main title match. Like,
I thought it was really interesting that we have all these rumors too about a potential Ring of Honor stable in NXT, and then you have Cole coming in, and Aleister Black has worked against O'Reilly and Fish. Do you think they go right after Aleister Black?
I hadn't thought about it that way, but that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense considering the rumors and the connection that those guys all have.
Right.
I could honestly, what's keeping that whole group from walking out during that match tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that too. I mean, also, I think, the one that everybody's going for is they think that, you're going to get some sort of involvement with Cole and Roderick Strong because he doesn't have a match. I don't necessarily see that as much because it feels like they're very much setting up for Aleister Black to take on this new group of people that come in.
I don't know. There's I could honestly see any one of those situations playing out.
I think this will be different, though. Like, I do think this will be one of those debuts where he might get involved right away.
I mean, you could also see a situation where Roderick's in the back just getting interviewed because he's not on the show, and everybody wants to get his thoughts on him being excluded, and then Adam Cole just walks in, and he's like, hey, buddy, you know, that kind of a thing. I mean,
or he's just walking through the background.
and he's just wandering around like a lost dog.
And then you're like, oh, I'm not paying attention to Roderick Strong anymore because Adam Cole just walked through the background of this shot.
I don't know. I'd like to see something different, though. I'm kind of getting bored with the whole, hey, look who's sitting front row thing for this match.
I think it also aligned really well, too, with, you know, if Sanity doesn't win the tag titles, they have literally nothing else to accomplish there. They can call them right up. And I know we've seen rumors of, you know, Sanity being one of the new call-ups, too. Just the whole group coming right up. So if you're losing that stable, you just replace it with another one.
Hey, why not?
Right, because stables work really well in an old school storyline mentality, you know, promotion, which is how they're doing NXT. Very old school. So you need to have one dominant stable, like a 4 horsemen. Fun to speculate, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more fun to speculate what's going to happen with TakeOver tonight than what's going to come from SummerSlam.
Absolutely.
And even though the TVs for NXT lately haven't been super great, I still think that NXT is a better product overall because it's a lot more fun to speculate these things, especially when you get more of a build to a match at a pay-per-view than you do with the main roster. I like the dynamic of only having 6 major shows a year.
And we're always seeing new, like, great talent come in because they have Cole coming in now. They had O'Reilly and Fish come in. They have Donovan Dijak coming in. They have Leo Rush coming in. They always have, like, a cadre of talent coming in that's just better than the talent that they had before.
I think it also helps that it's not, you know, you don't get 3 hours of it a week.
They always leave you wanting more.
Yeah, you always want more out of it. And I think it hurts them a little bit to not be a little bit longer with their shows. I think pushing NXT weekly to 2 hours would do them...
Or even an hour and a half, 90 minutes.
Yeah, even a 90-minute show would be great.
And I really think they could use, like, a mid-card title, too. That's just another thing that's on my mind, you know, like a TV title where, you know, you are seeing a title defended on every single show.
But yeah, I just love everything about NXT.
Yeah, Steve, I'm right there with you.
I think it's the best thing going in mainstream wrestling right now.
Of course.
Keeping with the wrestling theme, we just got the reveal of the first 47 playable superstars in WWE 2K18?
Something like that, yeah.
Let's run down that list real quick.
Well, let's not run down the whole list because we do want to get to our next topic. But we can talk about some people that surprised us.
Yeah, we'll hit on some of the names that you might not expect to be on here and some of the newcomers. I think the first one that jumps out at me going through this list in I guess in order that they were revealed, Akira Tozawa is on the list. And that kind of surprises me.
Yeah, that kind of felt like an indication to me that they're going to do something with the cruiserweights in the game.
Well, I mean, when you've got a whole show dedicated to the cruiserweights, I mean, you can't exclude them from the game.
Right, but weren't we sort of expecting that, though?
I mean, yeah. But, yeah, I'm kind of excited to see Akira in the game, and I hope his character model looks better than the one screenshot they gave of him, because it looked a little off, a little wonky to me. But, yeah, I'm excited for Tozawa. Next name that jumps out to me on this list would be Eric Young. And, of course, every other member of Sanity, even Sawyer Fulton, who is no longer a member of Sanity, as far as I know.
Do we even really know because they kind of booted him only because he was hurt?
Yeah,
so we don't really know if he is or isn't or what his status is because he's hurt.
Watch this. Sawyer Fulton comes out tonight to help Sanity.
Right.
But yeah, all of Sanity's in the game.
Big surprise for me coming up on that list was that they put Paige in the game.
Yeah, I think Paige being in there is a big surprise. I did see recently, though, that she's talking about possibly making her return within the next 2 months.
Oh, God, let's hope not.
I don't know. We all have very strong feelings about Paige, and whether you love her or hate her, it is kind of interesting to see her included in this game when she's been off TV for how long?
Well over a year. Longer than that?
I think it's been closer to 2 years, hasn't it?
Was she at WrestleMania in Dallas? I can't even remember if she was there or not.
I don't think she was.
I don't think she was. I think she was out before that. So it's been a while.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see her included. Right there with her, though, Summer Rae, who we haven't seen on TV in almost forever either.
But who is capable of wrestling right now. They just aren't using her.
Yep.
For me, Buddy Roberts, which to me indicates that they're putting the whole Freebirds in the game.
I would love to see the Freebirds in the game. I would love to play a match with the New Day versus the Freebirds.
I'd love to just have all of my created wrestlers come out to Bad Street, Atlanta, GA, all of them, every single one.
Every single one of them.
You can't use personal tracks anymore. You can't put your own music in the game anymore.
Well,
so
I mean,
every single one of my characters is coming out to Bad Street.
I mean, they have been slowly rebuilding the franchise because when it was taken over by 2K, they basically just ported the who was it that made the game before? Ukes or THQ? Or
well, I think
they were
it's still
together.
Involved, but the publishing house was THQ, yeah.
Yeah, well, they just basically ported over the THQ game, and then little by little, they started rebuilding things.
Well, the first version that 2K had did have custom tracks in it. Then they took it out.
because it was basically a direct port of the THQ game, and then once they started rebuilding the whole game, they slowly changed things and took things out. Because, like, for example, in 2K17, there's match types that you can play on the PS3 version and the Xbox 360 version that you can't play in the Xbox One and PS4 versions because basically the last gen versions of this game have all just been ports of the THQ game.
Right, over and over and over again. They weren't doing any new work on them.
There's no development. And there's no reason for that development. I mean,
well, for a last gen system, why would you anyway? You don't want to devote your resources to it.
Exactly. So, I mean, I don't necessarily know that custom tracks won't come back, but
I think it's one of the number one requested features that they
it's got to be. It's got to be. I mean, it's also like one of those things that can't really be a licensing issue because, I mean, when you record footage of your game, at least through the Xbox One, I know all the music gets muted. Even the entrance themes that are licensed directly through the WWE get muted.
Well, I know that originally that's one of the reasons they gave as to why they took it out was a licensing issue. But more practically, up until last year, Xbox One didn't support custom burn of music onto the system. But now they have that as a feature. You can actually burn your music to the system again. So it just feels like, the technology wasn't there for a while with the new game. The systems didn't support it, but now both systems support it. And there's no reason streaming-wise why you can't do it because, like you said, the music is muted anyway.
Yep.
So the reasons they would have not to do it are disappearing slowly. It's just implementing the technology, which already existed because they're just porting a lot of stuff over every game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why that would if that's not included in this upcoming release, why it wouldn't be in 2K19.
Sure. Back to the roster though. Buddy Roberts for me. Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah, Bam Bam's in the game. He wasn't in last year's. He was in 2K16.
He was in one of them recently. I just hope this turns into like $1 Million Man is announced and Tatanka and they do like the $1 Million Stable.
That'd be great.
Oh my God, I'd nut in my pants.
And of course, I think the last one on this list that's really worth talking about would be Andre the Giant, who hasn't been playable in the game in at least 2 years.
I don't remember the last time he was in the game. I remember that he's not in many of the games, though. I can remember when he was in some of the N64 games, but he hasn't really been in the games, consistently for a while. Not like you see a lot of the legends that are consistently in the game every year, like Diamond Dallas Page is in most of the games. Bret Hart is in most of the games. Also, the surprise it's not necessarily directly tied to the roster. They announced The Undertaker as a legend for the game. They announced Mark Henry as a legend as well. Does that confirm Mark Henry's retirement? Does that confirm, that The Undertaker is officially retired?
I don't want to look too far into that.
Sure. It's just fun to speculate.
I don't know that that's necessarily an indication of anything because we haven't seen The Undertaker in the game yet, so we don't know if the Undertaker's in there in different incarnations.
I would only play as American Badass Undertaker. Only. That's it.
I would probably too.
Just me doing my booger red all over again.
I mean, we've also seen, though, where they have put guys who are currently on the roster in the game and listed them as legends. I mean, I think they've done it with Ric Flair. I think they even did it with Vince McMahon. So even though he's not an active member of the roster, when you include him as a playable character and you put him as a legend, I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, I don't necessarily want to take that as indication of anything.
No, I just thought it was worth mentioning. That's all.
Another thing to note about 2K18, and this is a strange one, The Rock is putting together the soundtrack for this year's game.
Yeah, I didn't really think too much about that. It was more like, okay, that's something.
Well, while I was sitting here before we started recording, I went and listened to the playlist that they listed, and it feels really weird for a wrestling game.
Well, The Rock isn't exactly a music producer either. Who did it last year? Was it Diddy?
Yeah, last year was Puff Daddy or whatever he's going by anymore for the 20th anniversary of Bad Boy Records.
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, last year was Diddy, and this year it's The Rock. Gonna run down the track listing here. 11 songs. First being Soul Man by the Blues Brothers. Then we get Smokin' by Boston. Then it runs into Runaway Baby by Bruno Mars, Down with the Sickness by Disturbed, Boys in the Hood by Eazy-E, then One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Beer by George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Then we've got Rocky Mountain Way by Joe Walsh. Then Black Skinhead by Kanye West. I'm sure that one's going to go over well. You Never Met a White Boy Quite Like Me by Kid Rock. And then Last One Standing by Mayday featuring... Gonna guess that's Tech 9 is how you pronounce that. And then Tech 9 featuring Riz Khalifa and Serge Tankin.
He's the former lead singer of System of a Down.
Okay, straight out of the gate. So I mean,
let me say that aside from having Kid Rock on anything to do with anything I ever touch, I really like that soundtrack.
I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't know if it like. The quote I've got here says, "I'm excited to celebrate my WWE roots by partnering with the 2K and Apple Music teams and share some of my favorite hardcore training songs with fans from all over the world." That's a direct quote from The Rock. But this sounds like a training playlist more than it does the soundtrack for a wrestling game.
Well, if you're playing the game, you shouldn't be hearing the soundtrack all that much anyway.
Well, that's true.
I like it. It's songs I would listen to. That's different than most years where like, the fuck is this song? I've never even heard this before.
I think something else that's interesting to note is that when you go to pull up the playlist on Apple Music, of course, these are all uncensored songs, which we know we're not going to get in the game.
Right.
But it's also like there are tracks in here that contain a lot of profanities and a lot of, I don't want to necessarily say offensive, but things that can be taken as being offensive.
Right, well, that's not going to happen anyway, so let's not even worry about that.
But I mean, it's there's some songs that, like, once they're censored and edited down to be, usable in this game, I don't know how you're going to really keep that song in the game.
I don't know. I think we're talking way too much about a soundtrack that you only hear when you're waiting for your next match to start.
I just thought it was interesting to note. Guess what? We're going way extra long with this episode. I don't even care.
I don't think anybody's going to care.
We're going to move on then to this news of a ticket that you can buy. You can pay a monthly fee, $10, see a movie every day for an entire month.
Moviepass.
Moviepass. Not movie phone, Moviepass.
Yeah. Thank you for calling movie phone. I don't really know what to say about that. I really got nothing on it. I think that the value is intrinsically like tied to how much you want to see movies. So if it's like, February when nothing comes out, what are you going to see on the Moviepass that month? And it obviously pays for itself, based upon where you live. It obviously pays for itself with seeing one movie because it is $9.95 a month. But, as we talked about on our own in our private conversation, you can only see each movie once. So, if you're like me and you really like, Baby Driver, and I've seen the movie like 4 times, you can see it once on Moviepass, and then the other times you're paying, bitch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
and it doesn't
disagree
include
with that.
IMAX. It doesn't include 3D. So if you want to see something special, you don't get that either. So I don't know. I feel like it's kind of intrinsically tied, like I said, to how much you want to see movies. Now, like a month like this, where there's a bunch of movies I want to see, maybe it's worth it. I can go see, Logan Lucky just came out. I could go see that. I could go see, The Hitman's Bodyguard. But, after a week, if I've already seen everything that's out, then you're kind of just waiting out till the next month so you can see, something again if you want to. Or, something new the next month. It feels like it's a little short-sighted on the you can only see each movie one time thing.
I feel like that's part of the attempt to make this a sustainable business model. It's interesting to see, though, Well, one, it should note, first of all, this isn't a new service.
No, it's not.
This has been around since, I think, about 2011, and it used to be $30 a month.
Which technically, even at $30, you probably would have gotten your money's worth out of it. Because if you see 3 movies, which most months you're going to find 3 movies to watch, more than likely.
Yeah.
You're getting your money's worth out of it.
I think it's going to be interesting to see if there's a way to do this and pay the upcharge for like a 3D or an IMAX. Because honestly, I feel like that's where most people go to the theaters anymore. But that could also be because of people like me. I would go to the theaters more often if I could afford to go to the theaters more often.
Certainly, and I think that's the design of it, because they're trying to get people, they're not trying to get people like me who are going to see the movies anyway. They're trying to get people that, haven't been seeing movies to get it. Like you don't go to movies often because it's a little unaffordable, and I get that. But for you, if you pay the $10 a month, you might see 4 movies in a month.
I mean, like you said, I would pay this right now. I've been debating on doing it.
Yeah, so have I.
I would pay this right now. I would go see Baby Driver. I would go see Atomic Blonde. I would go see Detroit. And 3 days worth of movies right there, and the thing's paid for itself tenfold. I mean,
absolutely.
But then you like you said, you get a situation where it comes like, I don't know, the middle of winter, and there's no good movies coming out. And what do you go see in January when there's like nothing out? Like, is it worth? Maybe you skip a month. I mean,
I don't know. I think that we need to see more details on it. I think, or at least I have to. Obviously most of the details are out there, and I think the whole you can't see something more than once thing is probably more based on like a movie theater request, more so.
I mean,
because movie theaters don't make any money off of the movie. They make like $1 on showing you a movie.
Well, yeah, they make most of their money off the concessions. Yeah. I think it also goes based off like they don't want you going to like see the new Marvel movie every day while it's out.
Well, Marvel sells their own pass like that though, where you can go see Captain America: Civil War every day for a month if you want to.
That's what I was getting at. They still want to be able to make some money somewhere, and from what I also understand is that Moviepass pays the theaters or the film companies, however that works.
They pay the theater the full cost of the ticket, yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, I don't see how this could last at $10 a month unless the entire population subscribes every month.
I think if they raise the price again, though, if they raise it to like $20 or $15 or even back to $30, whatever it might be, they'll lose people for one. But then they also have to add things back into it where, you can see the same movie over and over again if you want to.
I mean, there's also been discussions that they're going to do a family plan. However that gets implemented, where maybe you pay $50 a month for a family of 4, or
right.
or you pay $30 a month for a family of 4. That way you're really getting a deal, I guess.
So here's what I'll suggest, that I am probably going to sign up for this, so I will sign up for it for a month, and I will let people know how it works.
Yeah, I'm most likely going to do the same, but I think I'm going to hold off towards the end of this month because there are some other movies coming out towards the end of September that I'm interested in.
Sure.
But I'm probably going to hold off on it for a minute, mainly because I kind of want to see, like you said, you're going to do it, so I want to see how you react to it, and I want to see if anybody else I know winds up subscribing as well. I do also want to note that AMC is apparently all of a sudden not happy with this, even though they've been, I don't want to say a partner, but they've been on board with it for as long as Moviepass has been around, because I believe the statistic said that 91% of theater companies are on board with Moviepass. But I don't know if that means AMC's got more information than Moviepass is letting on to.
Yeah, or they're worried about, needing extra showings because there's going to be more people coming. Or they're worried about, these people coming in with these, free tickets from their subscription service. And, they don't come in and buy concessions. Whereas you would get the family coming in that would buy all the tickets, give you all the money, and buy concessions on top of it. So I don't know. I feel like I need to know more about it before I could really comment on that. Just to know, I don't know what the old deal was. Maybe they're paying them extra money to be able to do this. And now that they've reduced it to $10, they're only getting the ticket price instead.
It's also interesting to note that the other day when I looked at it, they were giving you the first month free, and since then I've gone to look at it because I was going to sign up for a free month. I figured, why the hell not? It looks like the free month has been discontinued, and it also looks like people who did sign up for the first month for free were wound up being charged $10. So I mean, they're kind of not off to a great start with this already.
I don't know. I wasn't going to sign up just for a free month anyway. I was just going to sign up. I don't know, but I think we'll have more information on this very soon.
But yeah, I think it's definitely something that I like you said, you're going to try out. I know that I'm most likely going to do it too. So we'll keep you guys updated. We'll come back to it. We'll see how we enjoy Moviepass. Moving from movies to TV, though, Netflix, Defenders. We're probably going to go much longer than an hour at this point.
Yeah, well, hour and a half is a nice round number, so let's shoot for that.
We got the Defenders release this week, and both Matt and I have finished it. So I guess we're going to try and break it down a little bit. I don't know necessarily how you want to attack this, Matt, so I'll let you lead with it because you're usually better with these things.
Sure. So what were your initial impressions? Let's start there. I think it's interesting just to get how you felt after seeing it as a whole.
I enjoyed it. I really did, but it felt like it lulled for a bit in the middle there. Like the first 3 episodes were really good, and then like the last 3 episodes were really good, and then in the middle it was just kind of like
the middle 2 episodes because there's only 8 episodes.
Yeah, it was just like I am looking at the IMDb page right now. And the top-rated episodes on here are Episode 3, Episode 8, and Episode 4. Episode 4?
Episode 4 was when they're all talking in the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, and then...
So you kind of get, like, Defender bonding time in Episode 4.
Yeah. That's also the scene, though, where they get attacked at the restaurant, is it not?
Yes, that all happens in that episode.
So I think that's probably why there's a lot of people excited about that episode, because it was... action-packed.
Let's try not to give too many spoilers because we are doing it the day after it released.
I do want to say, though, that the start of it felt really good when you're getting each character profiled, and those scenes with the individual characters feel like they're directly pulled from their specific shows. So it felt like you were jumping from an episode of Daredevil to an episode of Iron Fist to an episode of Luke Cage to an episode of Jessica Jones. And
yeah, the first
really
episode juggled that really well, I think. The show was produced by the team behind Daredevil, so it was Marco Ramirez and Doug Petrie. They were the main producers behind it. I think even Drew Goddard got really more involved than we thought he would. Like, he was the original showrunner for Daredevil before they switched over to, I think it was Steven DeKnight was the first season showrunner. But it was supposed to be Drew Goddard, and then he got too busy making movies, and then he had to pass it on, but yada yada. Anyway, Marco Ramirez and Doug Petrie and Drew Goddard seem to be the most involved in this, and which, you know, I feel like makes it almost more impressive, those early episodes where they're kind of jumping back and forth, and they all feel like episodes of their individual shows, even though the showrunners for the show were the Daredevil showrunners. So it felt like they did a really good juggling act in those early episodes, trying to give you character development on everybody and kind of let you know where they are coming out of their solo shows. And you know, their use of color was really great. It just felt like...
Oh, yeah.
It felt like individual episodes of the show in, like, you know, 5-minute bursts, that first episode.
Oh, yeah. The color... If you haven't watched the first episode yet, just... go and watch the first episode right now. Pause this podcast and go watch the first episode, or go watch the whole thing. But specifically the first episode. The attention to color in each individual scene is crazy. Because I noticed, like, in the Luke Cage scene where he gets off the bus and he meets with Claire and everything, it's like, it's not just like a warmer palette. There's so much attention to the color yellow. Like, I think he winds up walking down an alleyway with Misty Knight, and even, you know, the leaves on the trees are yellow, the houses are painted yellow. Like, there's so much attention to yellow. And then, like, you switch to the Daredevil scene, and he's sitting in a restaurant speaking with someone. I'm not going to reveal who he's speaking with, but he's sitting in a restaurant speaking with someone, and I believe the lighting in the restaurant are red lights. I think the walls are painted red.
Yeah, and they go very far with that too, because when you go to when they're at the Chinese restaurant, Daredevil walks away at one point, walks to the window, and the neon lights coming through the window are all red.
But did you also notice in that
Luke
scene
Cage goes in the background, and the neon lights above his head are all yellow?
Did you also notice in that scene, though, like the overall lighting of the room when they're all sitting around the table is literally just the 4 colors of the team?
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. Like, it was so good. It gave me a lighting boner.
It really is. It's a beautiful-ass show, I'll say that.
Yeah, being a guy who was going to school for hoping to become a lighting tech, that gave me such a lighting boner. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't disagree. It's very noticeable. Those initial scenes in the first episode, they just all, even the camera angles they use, because Daredevil uses a lot of like Dutch angle. Everything's kind of on a tilt, and that's it. That's present in the show. And Jessica Jones kind of has like a nouveau type look where they kind of do a lot of different, like really different camera angles, and it's really dark and kind of has like a purple overtone to it. Just really looks beautiful.
The other thing was the show started off really bright. Like the lighting was bright, the colors were bright, and slowly over the course of the show, everything got darker. I don't know if you noticed that as well.
Well, sure. The last couple episodes, everything kind of takes place at night too.
But I mean, it like
consistently get darker.
But just the tone of everything, it got so much darker, and the colors got less saturated, and the colors were a bit more muted.
Playing
and
towards
things,
the idea
and
that the defenders as a team are kind of spiraling down. They're kind of getting further into what they're going towards.
Yeah, I really enjoyed I don't want to say subliminal stuff within it, but just some of the settings and the approach to how they lit things it floored me. I think it's the best done out of all the Netflix stuff so far.
I can't necessarily agree with that. I still think that Luke Cage is the best thing they've done. Just from a whole, just the way the show was made. I think Luke Cage is just phenomenal the way they made the show.
No, I'm not saying that the show as a whole is the best.
Oh, I know.
Thing
I'm just stating
done,
kind of my overall opinion. I just think it was really well made. I'd go with Jessica Jones after that, and probably Daredevil and Iron Fist in like a 3-4 spot. I don't think that says that any of them are bad. I just think, looking at it from somebody who makes short films and is really into writing and that kind of thing, that just the way the shows are constructed kind of, there is a tier to it, I think. Like you, I did really like the show. I came away feeling very underwhelmed by it. I kind of thought maybe, it wasn't what I expected. I expected something way different from this show. I don't know about you, but I didn't get what I thought I was going to get out of it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I just thought that it was just different. It's very influenced, not necessarily by the shows that came before it. It feels like it's more influenced by like what Marvel as a movie studio is doing with their team-up films, or what DC did with like Batman vs. Superman, and what they seem to be doing with Justice League. It feels very influenced by films that are kind of the same thing. And I think that's why it had that lull in the middle, because, a team-up movie, Infinity War is going to be, like almost 3 hours.
God
Defenders had to fill 5 more hours over that.
Yeah.
So if you're inspiring the way your show is structured, where it's just I don't know, it's just built on a team-up aspect. You can't do 8 hours of a show, which, felt like it was low before, but then after watching it as a whole, it felt like too many episodes. You can't take, a 3-hour movie's concept and use it on 8 hours of a TV show.
No, I agree with you on that. It did. I feel like the middle part, where, like I said, it felt like it lulled, was just a lot of setup. It was just a lot of setup and a lot of what was it? The end of episode 6, where that big moment happened, where everything started kicking off again.
Sort of, yeah. I would say 6 is kind of where it draws back up, and then into 7, and then 8 is of course very action oriented. It's the last episode.
So I mean, like, there's a lot of just like talking through the middle part of this season.
Yeah, and it does get a little exposition-y there, where they're kind of explaining things to you. And that said, though, I feel like as much time as they devoted to kind of setting up the plot, there were things I didn't understand about the motivations of the villains, until like the last 2 episodes, which feels like if they're doing all that talking, I should know by now what your motivation is. But again, you know, in a team up movie like Avengers, you know, those scenes would be like 10 minutes, not 2 hours worth of those scenes.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to talk about Sigourney Weaver for a minute.
Sure.
Not getting too far into spoiling things, but I guess you described it the best. Her character is kind of a red herring.
Sort of, but I don't think that. I don't want to explore that idea too much. I feel like it kind of gives stuff away.
No, I don't. I don't either. But
I feel like the scene she was in, she has like a, I don't want to say menace, but like it feels like there's more power there.
I mean, it's Sigourney Weaver. She just kind of controls a scene.
She does control a scene really well. I think that's part of it. Like, and I think that's, you know, why they cast her in the role where, you know, you might come out of the show feeling like, oh, well, you know, she only has a couple scenes in each episode. Why did they need such a big actress for that? Because of the way she commands the scene. That's why they wanted to use her for it. You know, she has a presence. I came away a little bit disappointed with, you know, she comes off that well, you know, strong with her scenes that she gets, and then everybody else that's kind of a villain in the show kind of feels like a level 3 boss in a video game. Like, you know, they're kind of just there and they're kind of just doing the bidding of their master, but really they're kind of cupcake. They're introducing a concept that might help you with the big boss at the end, but they're not really doing anything to motivate the plot forward.
Yeah. I don't know. I really wanted a little bit more out of that character from Sigourney Weaver. But that's not her fault at all. But
to be clear, we do differ on that point. I kind of felt like she was established fairly well, and I think they left enough to the imagination that we can imagine her being, you know, just, you know, big, larger than life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much of an issue with the way that it played out. And I agree with you. I think looking back on it a little bit more in I guess hindsight, she did feel like a strong, you know, overpowering character. I don't know. They teased a part where she might have a fight scene, and then that didn't happen.
Right. Well, I think that's to give you, the viewer, an idea that, you know, if it came down to it, she could kick everybody's ass.
So, I mean, I just felt like it was kind of a wasted role for her, just because it was just a lot of talking.
Well, I think the best comparison I kind of made to it when I was talking, you know, with you and other people about the show, I think that the storyline that plays out during the show would be like, you know, as a comic storyline with the pacing that it used and things of that nature, it would be like an A+ comic storyline. You know, you could see this very, very easily being like a double issue of like a Defenders team up. Whereas like a TV show,
this could even be like
a TV show. It feels more like a or like a 4-parter.
Yeah.
But as like a TV show, it kind of feels like a B+, because it just, you know, things you can get away with in comic books, where you can kind of, you know, allude to things happening, and you can have characters, you know, getting snippy with each other and getting kind of like snarky, responding back and forth. It feels very comic book.
Yeah.
But as a TV show, you come to expect more, especially when the writing for all these shows, you know, separately were, you know, just so strong. Characters don't really do that kind of thing. You know, with the exception of Luke Cage, which, you know, the second half of that series just gets kind of off the wall bonkers with everything that happens.
It really does.
And that doesn't even make it bad to me. I think it's just, you know, it's really good. It just gets wild. But with everything else, the writing is just so smart, and the characters, you know, respond how you would think they would. But everybody kind of just reacts in this show, Defenders, kind of like they know that they're in a comic book.
Yeah, and I feel like 8 episodes, honestly, when I was looking at it originally and after I had first finished it, I felt like it was a little short, but honestly, I felt like it could have been shorter.
Right, and I
felt like maybe 6 episodes would have been great for this.
And I've already said that too, so I agree with you.
I mean, I agree with you. I feel like there are parts where it does feel like the characters are almost aware they're in a comic book setting, and it just feels a little, I don't want to say off at any point, because it flows pretty well when you sit down and you get the whole grasp of everything. But
Sure. And to be clear about how I feel, I think it only feels off in comparison to everything they've done leading up to it. It just feels out of place because none of the shows really take that tone.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But yeah, it's definitely its own thing. It doesn't make an attempt to feel more like one specific Netflix series than the other.
I did say to you, I believe at one point, that I kind of feel like Matt Murdock is the Tony Stark of the Defenders area of the universe.
Yeah.
Like, he just does things that are very much like, it feels like the showrunners were like, well, this is our character, so suck it. Kind of like how they do with the Marvel movies, where like if Tony Stark's in a movie, it very much feels like an Iron Man movie if he's in the movie.
Yeah.
It just feels like Marvel pushes that agenda really hard, that, we have Robert Downey Jr. and he's the biggest actor in this movie, so it's an Iron Man movie. And it kind of feels like this is like, the most well-known of our characters in these shows is Charlie Cox. So Daredevil is, the guy.
But yeah, I do like the fact that it didn't necessarily, though, pull too much from Daredevil in the way that it looked or anything like that, or the way that it was paced.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. I mean, I think it would have been very easy to, Daredevil is a very violent show. It would have been very easy to make all the fight scenes very Daredevil-esque, where they're kind of violent and gritty. But they didn't do that. It was more, kind of the fight choreography of, Iron Fist.
Yeah. I also want to touch on the supporting actors within this show.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you thought about the characters next, actually. So we're kind of on the same page.
I really liked Claire.
Rosario Dawson, yeah.
Yeah, I love her in all of this stuff.
Well,
I like that she's kind of
the
like
connective tissue between everything.
Yeah, I like that she's the glue that kind of holds it all together and ties it all together. I also really liked Jessica Henwick as Colleen Wing. Wing. Excuse me.
Sensei, notice me.
I've been enthralled with that character from the time I watched Iron Fist all the way through this Defenders run.
I think this thought I'm having is kind of along the lines of what you're saying, but I really dig that the female characters in this are all really, really strong. It tends to be something I complain about with a lot of really popular shows.
For the most part.
The female characters, like, they feel like, oh, I need a man. I can't do this without him. Very much like Walking Dead, where all the female characters kind of feel very weak. In this, I don't feel that way because, Colleen Wing is a badass. She's willing to take on a fight, even if, Danny Rand, Iron Fist, isn't around. She'll just jump into the fight anyway. They all have emotional things that are part of their characters where you get some character development out of it. Misty Knight doesn't take shit off anybody. She's very strong.
Oh, God, no. I love her.
You've seen this character development for Claire over the course of, now 5 shows, 6 seasons of 5 shows. You've seen her now. And, little by little, she's gotten very strong where she's willing to jump into a fight and she can take care of herself. Nobody needs anybody on this show. If anything, I'd say, the Defenders characters, the main characters, the way that the show plays out, you see that they need each other more than the side characters do. They're all very strong and independent by themselves. Karen Page isn't very much in this show. She's only in like 3 episodes of the show, but even she now feels, after this arc of going through 2 seasons of Daredevil and now into, a season of Defenders, and she's going to be a main character in The Punisher. She feels like a very independent character to me.
I'm so over Karen. No offense.
Well, I think you're wrong, but you are allowed your opinion.
I feel like that character just comes off weird.
I feel like she has like haphazardly fallen into things over the courses of the shows. Like, I'm not a really good secretary, and now, I'm not, really good at this law thing. I'm just going to go hang out at the newspaper. Oh, now I'm a writer. It just feels kind of like odd the way her character develops over time, but I feel like she's become more strong over time where she can handle herself.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I just feel like the character is kind of, I don't know, she's always worrying. She's always just like got this look on her face that it makes me uncomfortable.
She's very judgmental too as a character.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just is what that is. But
I feel like that taken into context, though, not to kind of beat a dead horse with that, but if you know the evolution of the Karen Page character through Daredevil comics, she needs to get to that point in order for some of her big storylines to play out, where
well, yeah,
where she dies, and it really motivates Matt to be like, okay, like now I'm going to go into a giant hole. It really motivates a lot of character development for the Daredevil character that she becomes stronger over time.
Yeah, I understand that, and that's why I'm not like super upset with the way that Karen Page is in these shows. But I just
and admittedly, I'm a giant Daredevil fan, and you're not. So
that's true. That's true. I also liked I'm gonna butcher his name here. I'm gonna say Eka Darville.
Eka Darville
who plays
Malcolm.
Malcolm. I feel like that character within this few episodes that he was in Defenders, kind of like, I don't know, he went through this change that made me like really like him as a character.
Well, I think that they're showing, that now that he's not under the effects of what he was in the season of Jessica Jones, that you're seeing the real character now.
Yeah, I really liked it, and I'm like really looking forward to seeing him in the second season of Jessica Jones. I really liked Madame Gao. I've always liked her.
She's excellent in every show that she's in.
Yeah. And of course, Elodie Young as Elektra. The way that character progressed through.
Yeah, now we're getting into the main
Defenders.
characters. So Elektra is in like every episode of the show.
Yep. I really liked the progression of that. I don't want to get too spoiler with it because
she really like embodies what the character is supposed to be.
Yeah.
More so than what we got in, the Elektra film or like the original Daredevil film, where she kind of felt like, I don't know, she just wasn't acted very well. And you didn't really get a sense of, kind of the inner turmoil that they both have as part of, the Daredevil Elektra relationship. Whereas I watched this show and, it's very much played out very well, that relationship between the two, where, they're each other's weak spot. They have blind spots when it comes to the other one. Even if, other shit is going on, they're still worried about what the other one is doing over anything else.
Yep. But yeah, I really liked the character progression through Defenders for her.
What did you think about how the main characters worked together?
I was kind of just about to get into that. I liked that they didn't feel like they had been working as a team together, through all of this stuff before.
Yeah, that's just real quality acting at that point.
Which, yeah, you kind of tend to feel that way when you jump into a movie like Avengers and these characters all meet each other for the first time, but then they're fighting together and they're just like, they just gel. I like that it felt like this is truly the first time these characters are meeting each other, and this is the first time they're doing stuff together. I like
to be positive about that, or to just be more positive about the way the show presents it. The show has a long memory, so if you're looking more forward to Jessica Jones and Luke Cage's relationship play out, that imperfect relationship they have, the show remembers that it happened still, even though this is the first team up between everybody. It remembers that. Daredevil as being the first hero that evolved in this world. Everybody knows who he is before he gets there. So these things that happen do matter. They haven't teamed up before, but everybody is very aware of each other for the most part.
Yeah, and then I really was excited to see Danny Rand and Luke Cage together.
Yeah, so was I. I did say that to you, I believe.
I was kind of underwhelmed with the interaction that the two of them had, or the extended interactions that the two of them had.
I think it feels how I want it to feel. I think you have to... I'm taking their characterizations in the show into account on that. Where,
Yeah.
I definitely feel like Danny Rand is kind of like the childlike innocence that he has when he looks at every situation, where he's just like, I'm the immortal Iron Fist. I have to fight you. And that's just his singular focus. Like, it's very much like a 9-year-old. Like, no, I gotta go play basketball now. His childlike innocence and his naivety towards every situation. It's just such a great contrast to everybody else who takes everything way too seriously.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm hoping that we get more of that Power Man, Iron Fist, what we've come to know of them over their time together.
Yeah, I mean, my real hopes for
like,
it is that we get, season 2 of Luke Cage becomes Heroes for Hire. Like,
that'd
would
be
really
great.
pop me. I would be
oh
very
God,
excited.
that'd be so good. And then I was kind of upset that we didn't get really any kind of a costume for Iron Fist within this either.
We sort of do at the end, and I don't want to reveal too much about that because I know that that's one of the number one complaints people had about Iron Fist. So I don't want to tell you which way it's going, one way or the other. We sort of do. We get like a proto version of his outfit. Definitely not the Marvel Classic version of the costume, but
no, definitely something more akin to the
by
recent
one
runs.
of,
Yeah. And then I think probably one of my favorite things of this whole show, Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones.
And you're not the only person who said that to me. There's other people I've talked to that have seen the whole show that said that she was their favorite part of the show.
I have been in love with that character since I first watched the Jessica Jones first season. I just feel like she's one of those people that embodies the character. Like she's just like Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, or anybody sees like an actor and just automatically associates that character. She is Jessica Jones.
Yeah, she definitely nails it. I feel like I mean anything your comic book vision of what Jessica Jones is, she plays out very well. She's kind of a wisecracker, and she's flawed and sarcastic, but she's still
then she also has a
extremely
heart.
strong, and she has a heart. And I think that getting into what our next topic might be, where the show leaves her, is a really good place for her to be at, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't want to necessarily get too far into where these characters end up.
No, I don't mean in a spoilery fashion, but we can talk about some of our feelings about it, I think.
I'm extremely hopeful for the second season of Jessica Jones based off the where Jessica ends up at the end of this. I feel like it's gonna be
a different thing for her based upon what we've already seen, that she knows she has friends now.
Yeah,
and she knows that other
that's
people
for sure.
Care about how she's doing.
And I think she also gets perspective on like who she is now and what her purpose could be.
Yeah, what her place
and
is.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of I mean, they teased it in the first season with her becoming Jewel. Yeah. But I really wouldn't be surprised to see her get that hopeful like vibe about her and become a hero, even though she hates that word, and kind of get that, and then kind of have something like snap her back to reality kind of thing. Because she does sort of seem to get this, I don't want to say like clarification, but she just kind of like seems to wake up to the fact that she can do a lot of good. With what she's got.
I feel like that's definitely where she's kind of left, where there's more hope in her world than there was before. And one of the things I really love about the show is her complete and utter disdain for being labeled a hero. When she comes upon Danny Rand towards the end of the show, and she calls him Iron Solid or something like that.
She calls him Ironclad.
Yeah, and he goes, "Well, no, it's Iron Fist." And she says, "Yeah, I know."
I love it.
She just feels like the character. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And I like where the show leaves her. It's just such a positive place.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Another thing that's really, I mean, since you stated your favorite, one of my favorite parts of the show is kind of the interaction between Matt Murdock and Danny Rand, where like you feel like Danny, like almost by the end, like he idolizes Matt. Like that's his hero.
I think he grows a strong connection to him.
He does, without them even having to talk.
The series ends, especially with the way the season ends. What he does for Danny, because Danny is kind of the center point of a lot of the conflict within this.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, what Daredevil winds up doing for him, kind of, I don't know how you wouldn't idolize him at that point.
Yeah, and to again not give anything away. I just feel like he like by the end of the show, like he's like, okay, like that's who I want to be. Is what Daredevil is.
And I hope that, like, I said this to you when I first started it. It felt like Danny had matured a little bit, but like you said, he did still kind of feel like a child through this. I'm kind of hoping with the way that it ended that he matures a lot.
Yeah, he feels more mature by the end, where,
he
now
definitely
he's seen
feels a
some
little
shit.
bit different.
And even if it's just through, like, his interactions with, people who have seen shit, now he just feels like a little bit more worldly. Not just kind of centered in his own little, his goals and his thing. Just, he sees the bigger picture, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I definitely got the impression that he's just kind of snapped into the understanding of that, yeah, you're the Iron Fist, but you didn't abandon Kung Lung, that kind of a thing.
I feel like maybe the character the show did the least for is Luke Cage. Not because he's bad in the show or anything of that nature. He's just, even coming out of the first season of his show, he's just such a pure character that there's nothing that would change him unless he became a villain. That would be the only thing that would change him.
I think, if anything, this show did more for the supporting characters of Luke Cage than it did for Luke himself.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it kind of expanded his universe of characters behind him.
But did we touch on Daredevil and where this leaves Daredevil?
I don't think you can really touch that subject too much.
I will say one thing. I
think a better way to approach that question would be, what do we think comes next? Like, what's the next major arc across all the shows?
I think the next big thing to come is going to be Shadowland.
See, I don't know, because I don't feel like the show gave us any clues about that. I know you said that to me, but we've talked about it previously that that's an arc I want to see play out. But I don't know that the show gave me any sort of indication that that's coming necessarily. But something's coming.
Obviously, something has to be coming, right?
I'd love for it to be Shadowland. I don't know that that's going to be what it is, but I'd love for that to be what it is.
I don't know. I feel like for me to reason why I think Shadowland would be coming, it would get way too into spoiler talk.
Yeah, I mean, we can't really touch on that too much.
Hitting time.
If you know Shadowland, you kind of have an idea of what's gonna, what that story is, and I would assume, some seeds are planted for you to feel that way. We haven't talked about that too in depth, but man, I'd love for it to be that.
So would I. But yeah, I'll give it like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd probably go like a 7.5 or an 8 myself. I liked it. There's things I would change, but I think that most of the characters coming out of this show are left in a better, different place to approach like the next seasons of their shows. And there's a lot of character evolution, especially from some of the supporting characters. And I can't think of, aside from it being or feeling too long, I can't think of anything I really didn't like about it. Aside from, I feel like the villains maybe are a little weak, but that's about it.
Yeah. It almost felt like some of the villain-esque things to come out of the show were the internal struggles that these characters had, or the disagreement that these characters had with each other. So I mean the
right, like the first Avengers
villains
film,
are there.
Where,
the villains are there.
How to be a team.
Yeah, but like I said, the villains are there, but they're not so much the worry, more than just figuring out how the team decides to deal with them. So yeah, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. And if you have watched it, let us know what you think.
Or when you do finish watching it, let us know what you think.
When you do finish watching it, let us know what you think. Of course, you can let us know what you think by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Deep Six Podcast, or you can find links to all of those over at deep6podcast.com. And of course, if you're not subscribed to the show already, what are you waiting for? Just click subscribe over on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, even on YouTube. It costs you nothing except a moment of your time, and you get all the great Deep Six Podcast content you could want as soon as it's published. Don't gotta wait for iTunes to refresh. Just automatically pushes it right to your device. what else, Matt? Why don't you let them know where they can find you on the internet?
Sure. I'm on Twitter at @TheMattBarnes, on Instagram at @TheMatthewBarnes.
And of course, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Steven_Spevak. Come back next week when who knows what we'll be discussing. But we'll come back at you next week. And until then, that's been another episode of the Deep Six Podcast. See you next time.